Thanks for joining Let's Get to Talking, presented to you by Black Gay Table Talk. I'm Kenan.
I'm Dorian.
Join us as we take you on a journey of discussion from two Black gay male perspectives.
Get ready for authentic, heartfelt, raunchy, thought-provoking, and relatable shows.
We're happy to be a part of your podcast family.
Let's get to talking.
Hey family, and thanks for joining us for another episode of Let's Get to Talking, brought to you by Black Gay Table Talk. I'm Kenan.
And I'm Dorian.
And for today's episode, it's an exciting episode for me, I'll say, and for Dorian too, I'm sure. All of us. So,
Absolutely.
Actor, activist, artist, designer, oh my gosh, educator. Is there anything he has not done? The one
He has
and
not
only-
gotten an Oscar, and he does not have an Emmy, nor a Tony. Yeah.
Not yet. But we have a divine date with Dale Madison. Dale, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for inviting me on your show today. I've been so excited. I was like, when am I going to get invited on Black Gay Table Talk?
Really?
Yes. I want to be invited on everybody's show. I'm greedy like that.
All right. All right. Well, I'm glad
welcome.
we got you first then for your
Yes.
upcoming
You
project.
are very first to invite, and I'm so excited to be here.
So, Dale, you have I have to say, Dale's one of our living legends, y'all. He really is. He's done so much, not just in the entertainment space, but for us as Black queer people or people under the LGBTQIA umbrella. So, I'm so happy to have you with us.
It is
So
a pleasure.
let's
honored.
kick it
I'm
up.
honored. When I hear all of those accolades, it kind of reminds me, damn, I am almost 66 years old. Yeah.
And looking
Yeah.
phenomenal.
I want to see the ID. I
Yeah,
want
my
to see
mom
the
is
ID.
96, so I'm planning on hanging out for a long time. Yeah.
Amen.
Good.
Amen. So, early life and your activism, Dale. Tell us about your early life. Can you share with us any early experiences that kind of led you to your journey or led you on this journey?
Um, I was born in right outside of Chicago on a naval base, Great Lakes, Illinois. Um, and my father was in the Navy, and my mother was kind of a farm girl in Virginia. I grew up basically in Tidewater, Virginia, and Baltimore. And for me, activism started really early because I tell people I remember the day very clearly when Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. And we were visiting relatives in Baltimore. And I remember running with my mom, running because the riots were going on. And I just remember running with my mom and the other relatives telling us, as long as we wrote Soul Brother on the door, that we would be safe. And I just remember that image in my mind. And then the following Sunday, everybody was fighting to get that color insert in the Sunday paper to have a picture of Martin Luther King Jr., which my mother taped on the hallway door. So as I walked down the hallway each night to my bedroom, I could see Martin Luther King Jr. And going to elementary school, or even I think it was junior high school, I remember being asked to read the I Have a Dream speech. And just remember reading that speech, you could hear a pin drop in the classroom. So it was something about King and his message and how powerful it was and how that inspired me. So he's always been like my golden spirit, I think, in terms of fighting for what I believe is right, and standing up in injustice. So it started so early for me. I started a protest in junior high school about something that was not fair to 7th or 8th graders. And we walked out of school and then we were singing We Shall Overcome in the front of William E. Waters Junior High School. I don't even remember what it was about. But it was just like, so we were always standing up for causes. So that for me is my earliest memory.
Wow. I haven't shared this publicly, but when you said that, it made me think the day that he was assassinated, Martin Luther King Jr., my dad and my uncle, and I'm from Memphis originally, they were leaving work and they didn't know what had happened. So they were leaving work at one of the hospitals there, and all of a sudden it was just chaos. And they both were beaten by police officers that day. They made it home, thank God, because I'm here, they made it home. But that is an experience that I guess it can stick with you, and it can create that early, itch to want to do something or be an activist, I guess.
Yeah, I remember years later when Stevie Wonder was fighting to have Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday a holiday.
Mm-hmm.
My friends and I, we caught buses from Baltimore and we marched in the snow in D.C. I just keep thinking about something. We marched in the snow in D.C. to fight for the right for his birthday. And years later, I run into Stevie Wonder at a restaurant. A girlfriend of mine who actually it had been 20 or 30 years, and we were saying, I said, Stevie Wonder always comes to this particular restaurant, and I said, wouldn't it be wild if he was there? And then we turn around and there he is, and she was one of the people who caught the bus with me. We were still friends, and she lives in Oakland, and she came down for her birthday, and we were able to turn to his people and say, could we say hello to Stevie? And we took a picture with him, and we said, yeah, we were there in the snow that day when you were singing, happy birthday, and we just wanted to just say that we both of us were there and how much it meant to us. And he said, yeah, and he quoted the day and the time, and he just started going on, and it was just such a powerful full circle experience, to be able to be inspired by King, to march for his birthday, and then to meet one of the people who actually made that birthday happen. It just kind of lets you know that when you step into the spirit of wanting to do what's right, good things happen out of that. Because it was just something as simple as, oh yeah, he comes here because it's right down the street from his radio station. He might be in here, and then he was. And then the fact that both of us were there in that particular time to share that moment with him was just, it was
Yeah.
uplifting and powerful.
Yeah.
And you said Memphis, and when I was moving from Baltimore to Los Angeles, my best friend and I, we drove across country and we stopped at the King Museum, and I got to see the balcony where he was assassinated, and then hearing his voice for the right for the workers, the bus workers, hearing his voice. We were lined up, and then we got to see the cell where he sat in and everything, and then seeing just seeing that balcony. It was just like it was emotional, and every time I tell that story, I always cry, and I don't know why, but
It takes your breath away.
it's just
It takes your breath away.
it's just just like probably my one and only time in Memphis. I just know that for me, I don't remember any much of that long drive. I know it was like 48 or 72 hours of my driving, him driving, but that moment in Memphis just was just so powerful to me, to be connected to that kind of activist, that moment, to be able to see that place.
Wow.
It is powerful. It takes your breath away.
Yeah,
I was
I
too
think
young.
every Black person needs to go there to the King Museum and see that.
Yes.
I want to know, how has being a Black gay activist shaped your identity?
Good question. What for me, it reminds you that sometimes you sacrifice relationships, and personal things, for the greater good. So
Okay.
I know that I've lost lovers and friends, and or people who say they're friends, over over my determination to live my life as an out gay man. So
Okay.
I came out in 1976 in the middle of my senior year in high school, and I fell in love with the most popular kid in school. He could sing, he could act. We were in Godspell together, and I was just in love with this guy. And back in those days, you know how young and hot we were. We were always sucking on each other's necks and doing hickeys and all of that kind of mess. And I came home with hickeys on my neck, and my father said, "Well, what girl put hickeys on your neck?" But I was just so proud and so in love, and I said, "Or guy." And he looked at me strangely. He walked out the door, and when he came back about 20 minutes later, he said, "You have 7 days to get out of my house." And
Oh,
I just remember like my world just stopped because I put who I was in front of any other thing. I had dreams of going to NYU, studying acting, running off with my best acting buddy, and we were just going to be stars. We were going to do all of this stuff. But in that
mm,
moment, it was like college stopped, the world stopped. I had to figure out how I was going to live the next,
mhm,
in the next week.
mhm,
Fortunately, my gay friends from the drama club all helped and pulled together. And we found a little basement apartment not too far away from school. And I used my prom money to pay the down payment on my first month's rent. Got a job at McDonald's. I was there part time, but they moved me up to full time, so I was able to survive. But it was more important for me to be out and proud and gay than to be closeted and ashamed of who I was. So,
mm.
so then I caused a rift in my family because it was like, I'm just not going to live in silence. I always believed that for me, it was more important to step in truth than to hide behind, fears of what people would
Correct.
think and how people would treat you. Because, that week was that 7 days was like torture. I mean, at one point, my father said to me, "If I had a gun, I would shoot you." And I just remember you could have you could have made all of, and this is what my boyfriend at the time said. He said, "You didn't have to do any of that. You could have kept your mouth closed. You could have gone to the prom, and we could have still hooked up, and da 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 da. But you had to go tell him you was gay." And I was like,
Mm,
for me, there was no choice. It was for me.
mhm.
It wasn't not. Oh, do I stay in the closet or do I? No, I'm gonna.
Right.
So I made that choice, and those were the kinds of choices I made because throughout the rest of my life, as a result of that moment, because that moment taught me that it was more important for me to go through the sacrifices and appreciate
Mhm,
my being truthful. Because as I tell friends and I speak to youth audiences all around the country, I speak at a lot of gay pride keynote events. I said, I never had to show up at Thanksgiving or Christmas with a roommate or a buddy and
Exactly.
lie and then wait for Aunt so and so or Uncle so and so to go. And I was like, no, I'm bringing my partner, and this is who he is. And, because your lies. If you keep compounding lies, you have to keep creating stories
you
around them,
do, you
and
do.
that just gets
Absolutely.
so convoluted for me. So it's hard enough to memorize lines and be an actor, but I can't just memorize a whole scene and then play it to a family. It's like, no, you gonna take this as I give it to you, which is the truth. And 95% of family and friends would just kind of go like, oh, okay. It's not it, it's not as well for me, because I know other people I've seen what other families have done to youth. But
Hmm.
for me, it was after I went through that big fire with my father, I never experienced it anymore with any other family member. It was like, shh, it's like, oh, leave him alone. He got his partner, he doing his due. And then one of the things my mom
Right.
said that I'll never forget, she had a sister that said to her, um, Love's son, my mother's name is Loveline, and they call her Miss Love. So, Love's sons is funny like that. And my mother said, but my sons have never been in jail, and my sons have never been shot, and you got dead children, and you got children in jail, but my sons have never made me ashamed of them a day in their life.
Ooh,
Very powerful. Very powerful.
she was a trailblazer. She was a trailblazer.
Let me
Did
find
you
it.
and
Go
your
on.
dad eventually make amends, or did he eventually come around?
So we had a turbulent on and off relationship over the years.
Mhm.
And we were so much alike. We were both very fire driven Aries. I was born the 22nd of March, and he was born the 30th of March. Um, and I was the one most like him in tone and behavior. So for many years, I didn't even appreciate God's gift of my voice because it sounded so much like my father's. And the sound of his voice really irritated me. I remember when I became a QVC host, he bought an additional television set that he kept on QVC at all times to see me on television, which I found out later. When I got married to a woman in the 80s, because that's a whole different story in the AIDS crisis, I married a woman running away from the gay life for like 2 or 3 years. He would call her up and tell her, well, you know, he's gay. Why are you with him? Why are you with him? Why are you with him? So it was like, so we would have that kind of drama. And then one day I found out he was an activist. He was like fighting drug dealers in the Baltimore community. So then we were put together doing activism together. And then we got into a fight and then we stopped speaking. And then he passed away in 2006. And we hadn't spoken in probably about 10 years. But it was an on and off. He was a difficult man. But as we learn, pain people hurt other people.
True.
You know,
Some of us know the importance of embracing our queer youth, and showing them that there is life outside of the hatred that you see, right?
absolutely.
So what or how did you become interested in education, and what was maybe like that first initial moment where you said, okay, I have to do this, I have to stand up, I have to say something?
So, in a nutshell, when I didn't go to college right out of 1976, and I got a job, I started working in the community and I started doing community theater. I ended up in an educational theater company in Baltimore. It was called BCAB, Baltimore Council of Adolescent Pregnancy and Pregnancy Prevention. And we would
Mhm,
do these little skits in schools that would show the risk of unplanned pregnancies. So the actors and I, we were tired of the management trying to preach abstinence, and we were trying to preach safer sex practicing. You know, the
mhm,
use of condoms, and it wasn't about not having sex; it was about, you know, the use of making better decisions. So we
mhm,
decided that we created an offshoot, and we created our own independent theater company, which addressed substance abuse, AIDS awareness, domestic violence, as well as that. And so that launched me into a world of educational theater.
mhm,
So from 1980 all the way through the 2000s, I spent the bulk of my years doing educational theater. So in that's when I actually started doing African storytelling. But when I
mhm,
landed in Los Angeles, I landed here in the middle of an actor strike. So I ended up doing a lot of temp work. And I ended up at
mhm,
Paramount Pictures for 2 years doing temp work. And when the temp job ended, I kept saying, what am I going to do with my life next? So
Right.
I said, I never got a chance to go to college. And and I know this sounds really silly, but I had done some extra work on the Parkers with Monique,
Mm-hmm.
and
mhm,
her character, her fictional character, went to Santa Monica College, and I
Right.
was like, I'm gonna go to Santa Monica College, and it was like right up the street, so I did. And I loved being in school. I sat at the front of the class, and the teacher was like, you know, I was like 47 years old, something like that. And when you go to college as an adult, you have such a greater appreciation for it. So all the other kids were younger than me, and the teachers would kind of go, he's here because he wants something out of this. So I ended up becoming a teacher's assistant, and they were always empowering me to learn more. So
mhm,
one day I took an exam at the guidance counselor's office to figure out what career choice should be next. Because I kept
Mm-hmm.
saying, this acting thing ain't working out. I'm not getting the roles I want to get. I'm an out
mhm,
gay actor. They're only offering me drag queen roles or super effeminate roles. And in the early 2000s, they didn't really have that down in terms of casting and giving you rich roles.
Correct.
So
mhm,
I was just getting stuck with a whole lot of background work. And I was just doing survival work, basically.
mhm,
So when I went through the list after you took the exam, and I went through the top 10 things, I had literally done everything except teach. And so I said, oh, I can make this work. I can, you know, because for me, it was all about how do I make the arts work in an educational way to
Mm-hmm.
impact youth. So
yeah,
I decided to enroll in a master's program for education, all the while constructing my memoir around all of the artistic things I had done, all the activism things I had done, how I used the arts to educate activism, how the arts to educate on substance abuse, the arts to educate on AIDS awareness. So a lot of my life, which was I was able to document and get college credit for. So that just was inspiring. So by the time I graduated with my master's degree in education in 2010, I was volunteering at the Los Angeles LGBT Center as a mentor. And someone saw me do a youth workshop and offered me a job to be a program coordinator in their health department.
Okay.
And that's where I really got to do the bulk of inspiring youth. And that led to me being able to speak. At that time, I'd already self published my memoirs, so people knew something about me. So I would be invited to sell my book and then give a keynote address. But because what I had gone through in life, I thought would impact and help inspire other youth to understand that just being gay isn't when your parents drop you off on Santa Monica Boulevard and say, I don't want to have anything else to do with you. Because
Okay.
I survived that, they could survive that. It's stuff that was for me. And I said, you know what, the time will be right when the right roles will come, or the right agent will come, or people will see me. But in the meantime, I can still make use of God's gift through using my art as an educational tool.
Educator. Absolutely.
Yes, yes.
Realm. What are some of the highlights and achievements from your career as an educator?
A big bulk of the highlight was when I managed. When I remember I told you about the educational company and we started doing other things. Well, then I offshoot from that educational company and I decided to do African storytelling. So I
Okay.
had a part-time job working for the Children's Theater Association. And this young lady who I went to high school with, she had just graduated from college. And she said, you know, you shouldn't be working for the white man telling, you know, Aladdin tales and Three Little Bears. She says, we should do Black stories. And so,
Yeah.
you know, she came up with this concept. It was called Umoja Sasa Storytellers, and it translates to Unity Now. And she says,
Okay.
we'll take African American stories and we will take the model that the white people are doing, and we will go to all the schools and we'll start booking our stories, and then all the money will come to us instead of us working for them. You know,
Okay.
Hmm.
during Black History Month, we can
Mhm.
work year round and market and promote ourselves. So I was a self-taught costumer, so I made all these beautiful African garments. And we had a pipe and drape with a hand-drawn map of Africa. And we put a pipe and drape up, brought in our bags, got some drums, got some musical instruments, and we started telling children's stories. What we would do is I would write lesson plans and we would give them to the teachers. So then we would teach them Kiswahili words, and then we would, tell them about the morals, and we would teach them origin stories. And then we would tell them, then we would slip in our slave stories, whereas
Okay.
you'd be in a school and white people would be uncomfortable, like say, and then we would do moments of this is what slave traders did to Black people. And you had children like this, and you have teachers going like, I don't know whether he should have told them. And it's like, well, that's what happened, girl. You need to sit back and learn. But through the process of doing that, a few years later, when I auditioned in a national search for a QVC fashion channel host, I auditioned using African garments that I had made.
Okay.
But I also was making little doll replicas of the costumes that I made when I was performing. I took those dolls to the producers at QVC and I said, you do Irish shows and Silver Hills of Dakota shows and all of these other shows, but you don't do any shows targeting Black people. Why don't you let me host a show where we can bring in soapstone and mudcloth and kente and, and then show your QVC audience that you're diverse? Well, they were like, oh, great, we'll do it during Black History Month. So, of course, that's when we launched it, because that's the only time white people see us. So when we launched it, I mean, the show made over $1 million.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
it hurtled me into a kind of a niche stratosphere. I couldn't walk into like a Sears or J.C. Penney without some little old lady saying, that's Dale Madison. I saw him on QVC and I bought one of his dolls.
Yeah.
And then I was invited to appear at Black Expo shows, because during the 90s, we were very, very African. We had Spike Lee, we had Do the Right Thing, and we had Black Expo shows. So for me, the height of it all, the height of the popularity, all of that, the fame happened in the 90s, going to Black Expo shows, being on QVC, launching a line of handmade dolls that I had made myself. That kind of showed me what it could be like, using how I used education and art and then commerce together to create this whole brand for myself that was associated with African culture, Black dolls, as well as and never hiding the fact that I was gay. I was like,
Oh,
there were other gay hosts at QVC, but Dale was the only out gay host, because it's like,
Dale's
I'm just gonna let you know, I don't have to tell you what I do in bed, but I certainly ain't gonna tell you that I'm not gay, you know.
So when did you fall in love with animal print? As I was going through your bio and a couple other things, I saw a lot of animal print. So I'm just curious.
Everybody loves to ask me that question. I even wrote a blog about it. So like I usually just
Okay.
send to people, it's like, if you want to know, this is the story behind it. So one of the things I noticed, and I'd always liked it, to some degree, and I always had it, but
Okay.
I was breaking up with a partner, and we were separating our things in our home. And and I decided to take the animal print, and then he took the other things. And as I was shopping for my home, I realized every season there's always animal print. That print never goes out of style. And then I'm a huge fan of old black and white movies. Whenever you look at a film noir, whenever there is an interesting, sexy, or devious character, they always have on animal print. So I'm a collector, and then me and my brother were kind of like over collectors. So we tend to, if we find something we like, we just buy a lot of it.
Okay.
So once I started working for the Gay and Lesbian Center, and I had to go out and do HIV prevention and speak to audiences, or I don't know what it's like. Well, I do. I've been to Memphis. Is that sometimes when you're doing outreach, you're at a table at a health fair, and you're begging people to take condoms, or they listen to conversations about PrEP, and people just go, "Oh, child, just give me the condom. I don't want to." But one of the things I noticed, if I wore leopard print, people would just go, "Oh, I like that." And I would have them. I would immediately engage people because, as I tell people, I'm a big, black, loud, gay man. And sometimes I can be intimidating to approach. But if you wear leopard print, it makes you less threatening because people immediately connect to something. They'll either like it or they won't. Most
Okay.
of the time they like it, or most of the time they're curious. But what happens is it helps me to form instant engagement. So from that day forward, from 2012, I wore leopard print every day because I found that when I would go to places to speak, or if I'd have to be sitting behind a table, people would come to me first because they wanted to make a comment about what I had on.
Okay.
mm-hmm.
So it just became the safe way of making people understand that I'm approachable. Because sometimes we as black men and black gay men, sometimes people are a little scared of us. And it's so interesting. I was in a grocery store at Ralph's. I had on a leopard outfit from head to toe, and there was this rough thug, and he was with his girl, and he was like, "Man, I just have to tell you that outfit is bomb." And he wouldn't have did that. He wouldn't have did
Yeah.
that if I didn't have that leopard print on. He wouldn't have
Mm-hmm.
felt comfortable enough
Comfortable.
to approach a gay man
Absolutely.
to make a comment, because it somehow makes you more accessible. So I just have fun with it now. My whole house is decorated in leopard print, the bathroom, the sheets, the cars, everything.
Well,
And
you wear it well. Let me say that.
thank you. And it was good luck for me because I wore it on Jay Leno's You Bet Your Life, and I won.
Okay.
I wore it on, I auditioned for Doritos National Super Bowl commercial last year, and they said, "You've been cast, but you have to wear your leopard print outfit." So I get to be in a national Doritos Super Bowl commercial in my own leopard print outfit. No, I'm never giving up leopard. No, never.
Right.
And it never goes out of style. That's the whole thing. Certain things will date
True.
itself, but leopard
Yeah.
print you can find all the way back, and then you'll just continue to see it.
My
Sure.
life in 3 easy payments, right? There was a quote that you gave, and it was never let success go to your head and never let failure get to your heart. And there was a piece that you said after that, be ready to give your marketable what? And I want you to expand on this.
But are you willing to sell your marketable soul? Are you
Are
willing to
you
sell your
willing to
soul?
sell?
Yeah.
What was the meaning behind that, Dale?
Um, the meaning behind it is stand in your truth.
Yeah.
Sometimes we do things to be able to get that fame and success. And then you find out later that you got the fame and success, but then you've lost all the love and the respect along the way.
Mm.
So, My Life in 3Z Payments is an offshoot of my memoir. My memoir that I self published in 2010 is called Dream Boy: My Life as a QVC Host and Other Greatest Hits.
Mm-hmm.
It's loosely inspired from Mary Wilson's book, Dream Girl: My Life as a Supreme,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm an obsessive Diana Ross Supremes fan. So, one of the marketing tools that I used to launch my career as a speaker was I wrote a one man show based off of my book to use the show to educate audiences on my journey as an actor, as an activist, as a drag queen, as a anything. Um, so during the pandemic, I sat down with some writer friends of mine. And I was like, let's turn this into a television pilot and then let's pitch it during the pandemic. And so our tagline was just that. So Kenan was referring to the little 1 minute teaser promo that we created when we were pitching the one man the television show. Because it's a fictional story. It's loosely based on my life, but it's about three friends who live in Baltimore. One of them is a shopping channel host. One of them owns a club, and the other one works for a television channel. But the two of them went to college, and then the one of them who's me did not go to college, and so he feels insecure. And so for him, he thinks fame and success will be being on television, which is what I thought back in the '90s. But what we
Mm-hmm.
learn in it is that the character would do anything to be able to achieve fame, but really what he wants is he wants to satisfy his soul. And it's just a reminder: don't sell your soul, you know, along the way. So it's me relearning the journey, if that makes any
Mm-hmm.
sense.
It does.
And that's why we talk about don't sell your soul, don't sell your marketable soul, because on QVC, all you're doing is marketing. It's like I tell people, it's a glorified Macy's on TV. All you're basically doing, you're just a retail clerk holding up a product and you're engaging audiences to sell it, you know. But at the end of the day, people think it's more because it's on television. But now we
Mm-hmm.
all can be famous in our own blog, in our own conversations on YouTube, on Instagram. We can create any of those things, and you can do those things. Because I mean, I was there at the height of it, but QVC sells more stuff online now than it ever did on live television anymore.
Mm.
Also,
Going back to QVC and the dolls, right?
Mhm.
So I know that this was an opportunity for it kind of launched. You had a store at some point, right?
I after after I left QVC, I used the
Yes.
vendors that I actually helped get their products on QVC. They sold me products. So when I returned to Baltimore, I actually opened a store using the products associated with the vendors who had provided them for me at QVC. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when I started making African garments for sale. I started a whole line of I had Afrocentric dolls, and then I had Afro erotic dolls. So I had dolls
Okay.
that had penises, dolls I put little beads in there. They had testicles, and they wore little sexy outfits. James Earl Hardy did a reading of B-boy blues in my store when one of the first places he did a book reading was B-boy, and so I made B-boy blues. I made B what did we call it? What did he call them? A b-boy? I mean, b-boy dolls. So they had on
Mm-hmm.
tight jeans and a penis you could see in them. They had on the bib overalls. It was that kind of thing. So I was located in the heart
Oh.
of Baltimore's gay community. So I was
Uh-huh.
able to represent the Afrocentric side of me, but also the gay side of me. And it was a fun 5 years. I rented that storefront for 5 years, and it became the
okay.
heart of the gay community. We had people like Keith Boykin. He did one of his first books, One More River to Cross, was done
Mm-hmm.
in my store. James Earl Hardy, and then different
So,
gay photographers who had erotic art. So posters of
mhm.
black naked gay men. People knew where they could get black gay art. The
Yes.
the, the erotic and the Afrocentric. Because I was trying to tell people I'm all of that. And then you
And
lost,
we are.
and I know you know what the meat rack is, right?
No.
Educators.
Every town has a meat rack. That's the area you go if you want to pick up a hustler on the street, a sex worker.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Tell
what do you?
more.
It's like in Chicago they call it boys town. It's like it's around the guys will stand on the corner, and before Craigslist and Adam for Adam destroyed the world, guys would actually just stand on corners and just wink at you when you would walk or drive by. So my store was located in that area. So there were people cruising for sex, and then they would see the store, and then they would go in. And so I had the best of both worlds. There were hot guys that were walking the street in front of me, and there were
Hmm.
people coming in, and they wanted pictures of hot guys. What was so funny was even the sex workers would actually come in and say, "Well, how do I get to be one of those people on those postcards,
Mhm.
or how do I get to be on one of those posters?" And I was able to
Hmm.
connect them with different photographers and groups so that they could do things other than just sell dick on the street. They could take a picture of their naked dick and then let their picture make money.
Right. I love it, Dale.
Very interesting. Now, did you transition into online, or did you just completely?
Yes. Do you still craft and make these?
I make dolls for myself now,
Okay.
and then of course I collect dolls. But once in 1999, when I decided to move to Los Angeles with
Hmm.
my buddy who had written a show for me, my first show, I decided I didn't at that time I didn't want to transition the doll.
Okay.
It was too much to have to do. I'm moving to
Hmm.
an area to Los Angeles, someplace I had never been in my life before, and I just really wanted to go there and focus on my show. So I did
Okay.
the week that I left QVC, I answered an ad in a paper. Wesley Snipes, Patrick Swayze, and John Leguizamo were doing Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything,
Wrong one.
Julie Newmar. And they were looking for actors to be background players in drag. So we were shutting down the QVC fashion channel. So there's two QVCs in my life.
Mhm.
There's the main QVC, and then there's the fashion channel. So I worked on the fashion channel, which was the smaller one. And once
Okay.
Barry Diller, this corporate executive, bought QVC, he decided to get rid of the fashion channel. So what I did was, all of my friends said, you should just take these clothes and we got models here, we got wigs here, we got makeup here, and you should, take some pictures and send them to New York. Who knows? You could get discovered. So me, I'm just like, oh my God, I could get famous. So they gave me designer dresses and gowns and wigs and stuff like that because we were getting rid of all of that stuff because they were
Hmm.
shutting the channel down. So I got picked and I got to go to New York for a week to work as a background extra in Tu Wong Fu. So when I came back to Baltimore, when I moved back home, my buddy, who was a television writer, he says, "What was that experience like?" I said, "It was amazing. I had never done drag in my life, and I met all of these drag queens, transgender girls, and I learned that we spent a week together, sharing stories." And he
Mhm.
said, "I want to write a show. I want to write you a one-man show about being a drag queen." So we created a character and came up with, we used elements of my life, we put it together, and it won a Maryland State Arts Council Award for my performance, and then it won him an award for writing. So we got the cash award. We invested and we let it sit for 6 months, and then when it grew, that's what we used as our money to move to Los Angeles. So when we moved to Los Angeles, he had gone out previously and he got a producer to say, "Okay, we'll run your show at the Hudson Backstage Theater." So we ran it for 4 months, and within the first 2 months I had booked a television pilot, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is it, I'm gonna be launched." A television pilot was me as a drag queen, actually me as a madam. Me at the time, I didn't understand it. I thought I was a drag queen, but actually I was
Mhm.
cast as a transgender woman. So I have always apologized to my trans friends, like, Libby, I'm sorry for taking this job from you. But the pilot ended up not being picked up. But it was the reason that helped me see where all of it was going to go. So for me,
Hmm.
I couldn't once I decided to go to Los Angeles and we were going to do the play, I couldn't focus on the store anymore. For that At that moment, it was like, wow, let me see how I can break into the business. And it was then I got an agent as a result of the show. I got that pilot, but then the downhill was this was literally right before RuPaul's Drag Race. Patrick Ian Polk was actually even filming Punks at the time. He was already in the middle of filming Punks. The
Mm.
only auditions I could get were drag queen roles. And and they didn't have online auditions. So they said, we need you in an hour to come to Hollywood in full drag for the director to see you. So you would literally have to stop what you were doing, get in full drag, drive through the streets of Los Angeles from Inglewood in the hood all the way to Hollywood to audition for 5 minutes, and then drive all the way back and then take all that shit off. And that got to be really boring. And that got to be really irritating after a while.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
as much as I love being pretty, I don't love getting pretty all the time. That's just way too much work. I hope
Actually,
I answered your question. I always answer a question, but then I take you into a whole nother realm, and then both of you go, I got to process that for a minute.
No, it's fine.
that's I think that's why I'm so in love with you, Dale. Your story is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. And then like there's so many twists and turns to it that one would not think. You know what I'm saying? Like I would watch the pilot. I mean the the show. I would watch it. So I hope that my life in 3 easy payments. I hope that that can come. I would watch that. And I did see your one man show. I saw some clips from it, right? But you mentioned that you kind of became stereotyped or stereocast, right?
Yeah.
Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Stereotype.
Stereotyped. Yes.
Right.
Stereotyped. So, do you think there was a particular time where you were able to move around that, or do you think that that kind of held you stagnant for longer than it should have?
Well, that's a really powerful question because depending on where you are in your career, stereotypes can harm or hurt you. For me,
Mm-hmm.
as a 40-some-year-old man coming to Hollywood, I wanted the world at my feet. I wanted to be able to audition and be anything.
Hmm.
Now, I proudly go stereotype me because, baby, I already got money in the bank. I already got a decent job. I got some flexibility on my time. If I walk away every 6 months and do a little gay role, that's just extra icing on the cake for me.
Correct.
Because my
Definitely.
goal now at 65 is like is my husband, is having a home, it's helping take care of my mom. So I'm not as selfishly actor career oriented because I have friends who are they wake up every morning. It's like I got to be discovered today. I got to get this role. I got to get this role. And for me, I'm just like, like during the pandemic, I wanted a new reel. So I went through the casting notices and I auditioned for every single gay character. I typecast myself. And I was like, and so so when I put my reel together for my agent, it was like my big old fat gay acting reel. So it was like gay character to gay character, gay character. And it's like, I don't mind now because that's what gives me joy. I don't, it's not like I'll ever have a career like Denzel Washington. I'm not trying to get to the Oscars with this groundbreaking role. I'm happy doing my art, and I'm happy as a gay man, and I'm comfortable as a gay man. That I was like, give me some of the shit Billy Porter don't want no more. Or, give me a little
Mhm.
bit of that, and I'm good because I'm not greedy like that.
Right.
Because I found my joy in other things. I found my joy in sharing my story. I found my joy in inspiring young gay people. I found my joy in my home life. So those are the things that I missed along the way when I was so driven to just get to the fame. Now that I realize it's so important to have a good credit rating, it's so important to be able to save. It's so important to be able to invest in your 401k that it's like, and a lot of actors get all the way to fame and don't have any of that
Mm.
because it costs a lot to be an actor. You got to take classes, and the people who are really booking they're investing in themselves. You invest in PR people, you invest in casting
Correct.
notices, you invest in headshots, all of that stuff. And I'm like, it's a nice side gig for me right now, but it's just
Mm.
one of the many facets of who I am.
Definitely.
So I can be typecast now because because that for me just strengthens my brand. It just strengthens my brand as a black gay man. Oh, you can see me in some black gay shit. Because when they cast me in the Dorito commercial, they said you remind us of Andre Leon Talley, and I was like, oh, I was like, That's such an honor. They said, think of
Yes.
yourself as him on the front row of this fashion show as this lady walks down the runway with a dog that's his hair is cut into a Doritos triangle. And then they manipulated my hair to make a Doritos triangle. And they said, you're Andre Leon Talley. You're sitting there at the front row of the fashion show. And I was like, fine, typecast me as him. He's an icon.
Yes. I love
So
it.
it seems like you understood the importance of multiple streams of income before it even became the big term.
Hmm.
Right. But it's not just multiple streams of income, it's multiple streams of joy, multiple streams of
Correct.
what brings you joy.
Ooh, I
And
love
what happens is that the money ends up coming eventually. But when you start searching for the streams of joy that bring you happiness is when you can find the joy in it all at the end of the day.
I'm so glad you said that. The
Yes.
money will come eventually. What really matters is you being able to find that joy in what you're doing or tapping into your talents, right?
Yeah.
Being able to do what you love. Eventually, those things will come. But even if they never come, at least you have joy. You know, I love
Said
that.
I never wanted to be that person. I wanted to be the person that said I at least went for my dreams. Like, my inspirational quote is from Mary Wilson, is dare to dream. Because if without dreams, we don't have anything.
True.
Well, I can speak for myself. I didn't try to please my parents in what I did, but I knew I still needed to be somewhat conservative and not that outspoken middle child who, no offense about this statement, who tries to find their identity.
Yeah,
Because there are
because
lots
you're
between.
always saying, see me, see me. Because my older brother had asthma and my sister
Mhm.
was a girl. So I'm just a
There
boy
you
in the
go.
middle. And I'm like, see me, see me. And he had perfect pitch. He was a straight A student and she was a girl. But I was just like, no, y'all gotta see me. So, middle child journey is something, baby.
It's funny, my mom, I I was young when I came out. I was what, maybe 14, 15, 14, 15.
Okay.
I convinced my mom and dad to let my boyfriend come over for Thanksgiving dinner. So literally, I had the family members that came in and they were, well, who is this? Oh, that's Kenan's boyfriend. Oh, Lord, Heavenly Father, God, and then like praying, like, come here, let me pray over you. So it took my mama coming in and she was like, excuse me? Y'all feel like y'all got to come up in this mother and pray? No. Oh, hell no. Y'all need to worry about this. Y'all need to worry about that. And now if you're not going to come in here disrespecting my child and blah, 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 blah. If you don't like it, you can go. Get the F out. I'm like, okay, you want to play?
How did the boyfriend react to it all? That's what I want to know.
He actually, so I kind of lied about his age just a little bit, but
You were
he was
18.
he yeah, he was 18, 19.
Mm-hmm.
But he was like, I think I should go. No, you're not leaving. No, hell no. You're here now. This is my family. Come on in.
Accept us the
But
way we are.
yes, but he felt bad and he didn't want to be the cause of a rift because he had to be closeted in his family for a while.
Right.
There was no accepting it from his father or his mother. They were pastors, they were in the church. This is Memphis, it's the Bible Belt. So at that time he understood the value of, or the gain in being quiet and not causing too much of a rift. But my mom was more progressive, and my dad was more progressive, so they understood and they accepted me. Like, we had a few hurdles in the beginning, but they accepted me for the most part. And but he was scared. He was like, I think I should go. I don't want to cause a rift. That's your family. They can't be at it like that because of you and I. And I'm like, that's their issue to deal with. That has nothing to do with us. My mom has spoke her piece. This her house. So what she says goes. Sit your ass down and let's eat.
Okay. Yeah, I done
That's
had
how
them
we.
pastors. I done had them pastors. I done had them what do you call them? Ministers of music. And baby, that's a lot to deal with. That's a lot to
Mhm.
deal with.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
man, ministers of music.
You said that he was older. A lot of my when I was younger coming up, a lot of my partners were older than me, and it's interesting. After you hit to a certain age, then they start getting younger, and it's like now
Yes.
I'm with a young one, and it's quite a different journey. I felt like, well, you know what, Dale, I put in a good amount of time with them older brothers. So I guess the payoff now is, I got a little young one, a little Dominican that's on the young side, but
Yes.
I'm able to pass, I'm able to pass the torch on to him. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Good.
Dale. Dale's Tales: How God Created Butterflies and Other African American Stories. Go. Just let it all out.
How it
Let
came
it.
to be. So during the pandemic, I was, as I said, I was submitting to different projects. So I saw this ad in Backstage for a storyteller for a storytelling project, and I sent some clips from YouTube, some of my old Umoja Sasa stories, and so I got called and they said, we would love for you to be on this storytelling project. He's a white man. His name is Jim Weiss, and he's like well known in the educational arts field, and he wanted to do a storytelling project where he had a black, a Latino, and an Asian person contribute to this CD
Mm-hmm.
project. So you would have to. They wanted me to shoot in his studio in Arizona. So they flew me to Arizona. I met him. He was a really wonderful man, and we developed. Well, I took one of my old Umoja Sasa stories and I developed it into a story that could be told on Audible. And as we were driving to the airport, the producer for the project said, "Have you ever thought about doing your own project?" And I said, that's one of the things on my bucket list. I would love to do, an audio project. We had tried a couple of times to do some video stuff with local Baltimore artists, but we never were able to get it all together. So, but
Mhm.
I said, well, I have all these stories in my head and I'd like to do them. And so we went it took a whole year to put this project together because I had stories that I wanted to use, but because they were co-written with someone else, there was all these legalities and royalties. Because this is like being a recording artist. You sign a deal,
Mhm.
and then after a year of sales, then you get, your royalties. But it was a very small company in Virginia. And so I had like at least 5 or 6 stories, but 3 of them I couldn't use because they were co-written with other people. So time was going on, and he says we really want to be able to get this project out before the beginning of next year. So then we just settled on the 3 stories that we're doing now, and so I settled on what's called an origin story, a slave story, and then an inspirational story. So
Okay.
the Dale's Tales, and I fought for that because I said, there's a little double entendre up in there that I know that the brothers will get, but it's cool because I wanted them to realize because it's a very conservative company, and they only do what their main source of income is they provide materials for Christian people who teach their kids at home. So people who are when you
Homeschooling.
homeschooling, yes, they're
Schooling.
like a homeschooling company. So they had purchased Jim Weiss to add to their collection, and they wanted to bring in more diverse authors. So because I wanted to tell some queer stories, and they were like, "Well, we're just a little uncomfortable." Like they had no problem saying that I was a queer author, but they were
Mhm.
nervous about me telling a queer story. So they said, we want you to be able to build an audience and then we can embrace it. Let's see how your first CD goes. And so just the fact that they accepted me on my own terms of they didn't try to hide that I was gay, but they asked that I
Right.
not tell a gay story this time with the hope that we could tell one later on. So,
Mhm.
um, an origin story is when you're a griot, when you're telling African stories to kids, you tell stories like, why the sky is blue, why the butterfly has wings, or why the things in nature that we kind of come up with humorous tales behind it, like God talking to Gabriel and saying, let's throw some color here, let's throw some color there. And so Zora Neale Hurston originally did the How God Created Butterfly story. and it's
Mhm.
it's one of those stories that's in public domain. So any author can take it and embellish it and create it in their own way. So
Mhm.
taking the educational aspect of it, I wanted to teach the rainbow of colors. So I secretly get a little rainbow up in there. But at the same time, I'm teaching you, oh, if you take blue and red, you'll get purple. If you take, yellow and blue, you'll get green. So I'm telling Zora Neale Hurston's story, but I'm also teaching you about all the different colors of the rainbow in it. So,
Wow.
so it still is part of who I am as a brand, and I still get
Yes.
a little something, something up in there. But for the most part, the publishing company goes, "Oh wow, this is a really fun way to tell it." And I was like, "Yeah, it is." So, so
Check.
so the story I was most worried about was there's a story that is told called "The People Who Could Fly," and it's a story that is the story of how the song "Kumbaya" came to be, and it's a
Mhm.
Gullah story that tells a fictitious tale of slaves flying away to freedom and the expression "flying away to freedom," and um, we used to tell this story, and we would tell the story of Africans coming over to America and losing their power of being able to fly. But one man who was a powerful witch doctor kept the secret words, and the secret word was kumbaya, kumbayala. And so when we would tell the story as storytellers, we would join hands and we would stand on our tiptoes and we would sing kumbaya, kumbayala, and then we would go into the song, kumbaya, my lord,
Mhm.
kumbaya. So I wanted to tell the story, but the story also depicts the horror of slavery, of how the slave master treated the witch doctor's daughter in the field, and how he whipped her, and how she was carrying her baby, and she comes to him in tears, and she's like saying, "I know you know the words that help us fly away to freedom," and so he tells her the secret word, and she lifts up with her baby, and she flies away to freedom. It's a very emotional story.
Oh,
Um,
it just
One
gave me
time
chills.
we told this story in a Baltimore jail. You could hear a pin drop. And I didn't realize until after we left why that
Uh,
story was so powerful, because there's Black men in prison who are
and they
wanting to
want
get out to be free.
to.
But I'm
Yeah.
like, why did we pick this story? And it's like, ooh, this is scary, this moment, because they were like, we want to get up out of here. So, and then my
But it
third
inspired them, I'm sure.
yeah,
It
it
inspired.
did. It inspired them, and so the original story that I created for this is I took the story of the three little pigs and I turned it into a story about Black women's hair, and I called it Three Heads of Hair, and it's all about a white woman who comes to town to get the braids, the weave, and the afro, and she goes from door to door, and until she finally gets to the last one where she doesn't get what she, but it's a parody of the Three Little Pigs story, which I
Mhm.
had so much fun doing because I did it in like limericks and rhymes. So
Okay.
I'm
That's
excited about
cool.
that one.
I love your
Awesome.
creativity. I feel like you can take anything and spin it and make it something brilliantly gay or just fabulous. I don't know. I just
I think you're right. I think that's my gift. I can teach and I can slip some gay in there.
Uh-huh. Let me ask you this. How do you think that this book will contribute to the current landscape of African American stories that we have available? Like, what have you seen, or have you seen anything recently that kind of compares or sets the tone in the way that this book does? Is that a fair question?
It's a fair question because the first thing that comes to my mind is that, we as Black people are constantly creating great product all the time. The question
Hmm.
Absolutely.
is, does it ever get to us? Does it ever get
Hmm.
to our audiences? So that's the importance behind this project, is that this is a company that may not have ever gotten an African American story in the audiences, in their target audience. Now
Hmm.
that they
Mhm.
have, it actually, the best way I can compare it to is like Motown. It's like if Berry Gordy had not created Motown, then Black music would not have been able to cross over to white audiences. We would have
Mhm.
only been listening to Stax and Atlantic. We'd only be listening to Black music played by Black people on Black stations.
Mhm.
Whereas Berry Gordy was smart enough to say, you know what? let's figure out a way so we can cross it over. So he put some white artists on his labels. He took Black people's pictures off the albums at first
Mm-hmm.
until he could saturate his market, until he created the sound of Young America. So,
Mm-hmm.
so for me, Well-Trained Mind is like taking their Black artists and getting their Black audience, Black author to audiences, so people will kind of go, wow, I want to learn more African American stories. I didn't know that they existed out there, because you will find some people who didn't even know we tell stories, because they're only used to hearing their stories.
True.
Right.
And especially when you live in a world of homeschooling, the world is just the bubble you put around yourself.
This
They
is true.
become a new audience for me that they may have never even heard of a Black storyteller. So I look at it that way. I look at it as,
Yes.
we create products, but sometimes our products doesn't get to anyone other than ourselves. And it's important for us to know that, because, when I grew up, my elementary school was all Black. When I went to junior high schools, when busing started, and I actually had white friends. So
Mhm.
there's a plus and a minus about being in an all Black environment, but there's also the plus and minus about being in an integrated environment. You get newer books, you get better product to work with, but there's an appreciation of your history that's important in
Mhm.
there. So we as individuals have to find a way to be able to still keep and hold on to that importance and share that, even when we get into that saturated market.
That's true. Hence the reason why we have this show. We want to highlight and celebrate and help spread the word, because visibility does matter. And if it's not getting to people, they will never know.
Right.
So, yeah, that's just my little 2 cents. Because naturally, I'm an introvert, right? I'm an introvert. I like to stay in my bubble sometimes, but I sacrifice. And going back to what you said, there are things that you sacrifice while you're on that journey, because you have that passion or because it's something that's really in you to do. So you've always stayed true to you, and all I see is perseverance. All I see is perseverance, and the ability to be the chameleon that you need to be, because what's in here means more than this temporary moment of having to do. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I thank you for that.
Thank you. I know it took me a while to embrace that part. I had to. We always question, especially like when you've grown up and you've lived as long as I've had, and you see friends leave this earth, and you go, why does God have me here?
Hmm.
And every time I do something, I say, well, I must be here for a reason. Must be here to do this. I've lived this long. It's like so and so. It's like, have my high school class staying around. And then you lose so many friends to HIV and AIDS, and then substance
Yeah.
abuse is huge in Baltimore, and you just kind of go, I don't know. And somehow I stepped over all of that, and I'm still here. Okay, there must be something else. There's something else left for me to do, because once he
There's a,
takes me, it'll be like, okay, you've done enough now. It's time to move you on to something else. But I keep
Mhm.
thinking, every day I wake up with another idea. Then it's like, okay, well, maybe I'll do this, and then maybe that'll be all I have left. But then each day I get handed something else new, and it's
You're
it
working.
gives me the inspiration to get out of the bed in the morning. You know, that's why
Yes.
I jump up so early, because all the creative juices just pour in, and I go, oh, let me get up. Like I was writing. I have a film script I'm working on called Sissy Sammy in the land of WeHo 90069, and
Yes.
we're trying to convert it was done as a children's book, and I did a little short YouTube video about it, but now I'm trying to turn it into a screenplay. And so each character has a song, and so I couldn't. And so somebody was reading the script, and they said, you're missing the good witch Glinda. So I was like, oh my god! So I have to do this trans fairy, and I wake up with her rhyming lines in my head. So I had to jot that down before I started getting ready for you. Before that, because my ideas come in the morning, and by noon they're gone. You know.
It's
I
funny you
love it.
said that, because in studying you prior to you coming on the show, I had shared with Kenan that that was actually one of my favorites.
Yeah, he
Sissy
did say
Sammy.
that's one of
Sissy
his
Sammy.
favorites.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, it's like one of those projects that I know I'm going to be on television. I've been working on this project for about 20 years to get Sissy Sammy out here.
Is it that old?
We're
Is it
gonna
one
Oh
of your
yeah,
first publications?
I wrote Sissy Sammy in college. I wrote it as a part of um, a college homework assignment in
Okay.
2007. 2007, I wrote Sissy
Okay.
Sammy.
So it's coming up
And
on 20
I
years.
read the first draft at Long Beach Gay Pride. They had a poets booth, and I read
Mhm.
what I had done. And these two old gay men started crying, and he said, "You're telling my story. You're telling my story." And I was like, "Okay,
Aw.
now I got to really work on him." And so each year, I just keep evolving him, and this story keeps growing bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
That's
I tell
amazing.
you, it caught my interest in going through your profile. I was like, okay, I got to still study a little bit more. I can't just focus on this book here, but it
Yeah.
was really good.
That was
So
Yeah.
one of the
please,
stories that I wanted to tell in this project, and the publishers
mhm,
were really scared of dealing with it. I said, because it really is an adult fairy tale for your audiences who are listening in to us. Sissy Sammy is a parody of the Wizard of Oz. So it's about a little boy from Compton who gets bullied, knocked out. He wakes
mhm,
up in the land of rainbow flags, which is West Hollywood. Because if you go to West
That's
Hollywood, if
all.
you've ever been to LA and West Hollywood, everything is rainbow flags, rainbow, rainbow, rainbow. So he meets a drag queen, he meets a lesbian, and he meets a sex worker, and he's trying to find a bus token to get back. And along the way, you meet the bad guy, which is a drug dealer, but he accidentally killed the drug dealer's brother. But what's missing in the story is the good witch, because I make the good witch the DJ who tells him, everybody had what they had in their heart all along. But when I was reading it
Mhm.
with some writers, it was like, no, he should he should not be able to have the power, because the wizard didn't really have the power in the Wizard of Oz. It's the witch, it's
True.
the good witch
The
that
wi-
tells
mhm.
Dorothy where to go. So now I'm just been reworking that story, and writing is rewriting. So it's always a good thing when you learn. I'm so glad that I caught that now, because I would have hate for it to get too far out into the world and it be missing
Mhm.
that one important element. So yeah,
Wow.
that's one of my current babies that I'm working on, my sissy Sammy. That's
When
that's that's
you
very
get
close
the
to my heart.
final, please make sure you come back on and share
Yes.
with us the final and give us
Okay.
just
Yes. Dale, I've been following you since I got on Facebook, like back in '09. So we've had that little linkage where every so often I'm looking at what you're doing and this, that, and the other. Like, yeah, I've been around. So, but now that I have this platform, I'm like, you know what? Why not? All this talent that I've been seeing, let me bring these folks, let me highlight them, let me help out in the cause and bringing awareness to our people.
That is so humbling, because you never know who's watching you. You just never know.
True,
You know.
true.
Because
And I've been
I
watching you,
watch
Dale.
people, and it's like, and I keep saying to myself, don't forget them, because when you get to such and such and such, you want to be able to reach out and pull that person in, or you want to be able to reach out and pull that person in. So I am so humbled. I'm so humbled that you remembered, and then asked me to share today, because we don't have enough platforms for our voices. So
We don't.
this is wonderful, and I can't thank you enough for doing what you're doing and doing it from your heart. It's great.
Oh, thank you, Dale. Dale, I
thank
want a
you.
doll. I want a doll, and I want him to have a penis with some balls. Okay. Matter of fact, I want two of them. Okay.
So you're gonna have to hold on, Kino. So I will think about making dolls for people again. Think about it in between scripts and everything else.
All the other things you
Yes.
have going
All the
on.
other
Yes,
things. Well,
all the other things.
just for now, just think about Kenan, making Kenan the two dolls, and then we'll think about starting to make them for other people. Like when I first saw the collection that you did, or I guess the original collection you did,
Mhm.
I was like, I want one. Like, I want one of these.
So, are you a doll collector? Do you have dolls?
You know what? I don't have dolls per se, but I like to collect unique things that I feel I may never find again.
Mhm.
And outside of the types of dolls you've made, I can't think of another time I've ever seen them. So for me, that would be like like, hey, don't go in that room. Don't go in that room. That's where all my masks, my statues, and my dolls are. Don't go in that room. So it would be a first for me, but one of those things, I kind of have an eclectic type of thing that I do where I get those things that you feel like you may never see again. So
Dorian, are
yeah.
you a collector?
I am not. I am, and right now I am in this decluttering mode. It- I want to become a minimalist.
But I just faithfully admit I am a clutter person. I keep in clutter, and I shouldn't. But it's one of those things that gives me joy. It's like, I ain't smoking crack and I ain't out here killing people. So if I want to keep a couple of little dusty dolls around and a couple of extra pair of pants that's all in the same three different sizes, that's me, you know.
Yeah. And
We
those would
all
be
got our
something like
vices at the end of the
That
day.
we
we
do.
do. We do. And then for me, I'm not gonna lie, that would be something I would keep treasured. Like, okay, this got to be passed down. Like, you got to
Right.
keep these around.
I wrote it in my will that I want my dolls donated to a museum in Baltimore
Yeah.
when I pass.
Oh,
Okay.
that's amazing. Yes.
Because I think because part of it is just the history. Like I remember I found a doll in the 70s called Gay Bob, and it was called Come Out the Closet with Gay Bob, and he had a little
Hmm.
teeny penis. He was a white doll with blonde hair and earrings, a red plaid shirt and blue jeans, very very white. And I didn't buy him then, but I thought was so fascinated by it. But
Mm-hmm.
years later, when I was touring the country, going to doll shows, I was able to find the doll, and so I purchased it to
Okay.
keep it with me because part of these things are the history of us as gay people, and then of course
True.
they came out with Tyson. The Tyson dolls came out with the huge penises like in the early 2000s, and it was like, okay, I got to have these dolls because once that company went out of business, that's it. You're not going to be able to see those dolls
You
anymore.
know. True.
Yeah. Now, Tom of
True.
Finland actually makes dolls with penises, but they don't make black dolls. I
They
bought
don't
one at
make them.
RuPaul's DragCon this year, and it's got a removable penis. It's literally you can take the penis off.
Mm-hmm.
You can make him hard or you can make him soft. And I said to the manager who was black, I said, could you call me when you get a black doll? Because I'm gonna buy this doll because it got a dick. But if you could just ask the company to make a black one, I would literally buy it. I just want to make sure that but it's
Right.
these companies, they don't realize, they don't think we're that important.
That's why we need you, Dale. That's why we need you.
That's
And we
the
need your
importance
dolls with
of it.
dicks, okay? Bring us the dolls with dicks, Dale.
I still have the ads in the Baltimore paper for they were called Damn Good Man dolls.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, damn good Dale Guy Madison, damn good man. That was my brand, and so yeah, my I had there were literally 12, and the goal was we were going to make 12. We were going to market them to a company, and then have each one represent a day of the month. I mean, a calendar.
A
They would
month.
be calendar
Okay.
dolls, and I would take them to different doll shows, and I would line them all up. And after those 12 got sold, I just did not. Because stuffing them penises with cotton and putting them little balls in there for testicles, and people were always coming in the store feeling the penis.
Yeah, that's the first thing you gotta
That's the
test it
first thing you want to
out.
do is feel a penis.
Yes.
Dorian looks like he's so embarrassed of Kenan.
I'm
He's
not.
not. He's not. Dorian would probably touch it before me. He put no.
I was my last role as a background actor was on Dreamgirls, so I was in the final scene where they bring Effie on stage and she has her daughter with her, and Jamie Foxx sees
Hmm.
his daughter. So we shot that for 2 nights in downtown LA. And I remember Jennifer Hudson walking right behind me to go into the theater, and I was sitting like a couple of seats behind Danny Glover, and I was just like, I get to see the finale song of Dreamgirls shot, and it was over and over and over again. So I was like, arm's length from Beyonce, and it was worth being an extra in that moment because I couldn't do anything else but just sit there and just applaud because that's all you had to do
Yeah,
was just applaud. So that was such
Such a great
a
movie.
wonderful moment. Yeah.
Such a great
I love
movie.
that.
And it's
Oh,
you gay when you can say any line from Dreamgirls and all your gay friends know all the answers. Woo! They all know the comeback line. You're lying, you never been so thin. You're lying because you're sleeping with that thing who thinks she better than anybody. She ain't nothing but common. Woo! Hey,
That is.
don't get me into my dream girl mode. Woo!
I
So
Because I
did
love
you
it.
get to
saw
see the original
Dreamgirls
play?
30 years on Broadway. I saw Dreamgirls with
That's what.
Loretta
Okay.
Devine and Shirley
And
Ralph. Yeah, I saw
That,
it
yeah,
twice on Broadway. Yeah,
that must have been an experience.
yeah,
That must have been
yeah.
an experience.
It was
yeah.
such an amazing, magical time. Ooh, that night.
Mm.
First time I went with my best friend, and we went to the bathhouse that was like down the street. And then we went to see Dreamgirls. Then we went back to the bathhouse and we had trade all night long. That was fun. Then the second
I'm
time I
glad you
went,
said you went back because I'm saying, wasn't that a little out of order?
baby. It was New York. It was
That-
42nd Street. You could do whatever you want
Okay.
to, you know.
hey.
Because we didn't stay in a hotel. You know, bathhouses was, you know, that was like, you know, get your locker, boom, 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 go, come on back. Yeah. All night long. Party till the sun come up and then catch your bus back to Baltimore.
I am
Wow.
not mad.
If
Those
y'all ever heard of Chicago, y'all know about tea dances.
I don't.
Blank faces. Tea dances were Sunday afternoon parties that started at 3:00.
I know what a tea dance is, but
Right.
here's the thing: I'm not even from Chicago. Dorian, what are you doing?
Dorian had the blank look like, you know what a tea, that's club, house music, just.
Well, house music I'm very familiar with because they came out during my early part of my high school. So I'm very familiar when house music really became. And by time, once again, I'm not going to say that I was a kid that was kept under lock and key, but being that oldest child, my mother wasn't letting me too far out of her sight.
Gotcha.
So I wasn't one of them 15 and 16-year-olds that snuck out of the house.
Oh, so I really want to share with your audiences that, especially if your audiences reaches young people who happen to be in New York, I'm going to be doing a keynote address at PrideWorks LGBTQI Youth Conference in upstate New York. And I will be showing a short film that I appeared in called Pray the Gay Away. My keynote address is going to address chosen family. It's all about how young people can strengthen their coming out experiences by choosing their family. It's so important that sometimes when our blood family isn't where we need them to be because they can't get there, that we need to be open to chosen family. A lot of my experiences at working at the Los Angeles LGBT Center, I have youth who still reach out to me, who I still consider my children. Because we've created those kinds of bonds. And Kenan, if you were a kid, you'd be happy to know that I will be doing a gay doll workshop. I'll be teaching kids how to put together pride dolls that express different aspects of who they are. They're not like my traditional dolls, but I'll be doing a doll workshop, and I'll be doing a keynote address on chosen families. So if you are in New York, the 14th of March, and you're a teen, not a young, handsome, hot adult, but a teen. Attend PrideWorks at March 14th. PrideWorks. It's upstate New York. They told me the place. I just know it's upstate New York. It's not too far out of New York, but it's upstate New York. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll be doing a doll workshop and I'll be doing a keynote address. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm excited about my oral storytelling. I'm excited about my storytelling project, but I'm also excited to always meet young LGBT people wherever I go. And it gives me so much joy to be able to see them live, see their faces. I've done several keynote addresses, and some of those kids still follow me on Instagram. So it's just so good to see them as they grow into an adult and that they still reach out and keep in touch. You know, social media is really great for us in that sense because it gives us voices to be able to talk to people that we would not normally be able to see.
This is true. And see, Dale, you
one of the reasons I love social media.
Yeah. Dale, you're leaving these you're impacting these people, and they have to stay connected to you. Like I had to stay connected to you because seeing
You made me cry. I was like, my God, you've been following me that long?
Yes. So that being said, Dale, any advice or reflections, anything you want to share?
Always rely on never giving up on your dreams and believing in yourself. And they sound trite and they sound already, it's been said 100 times, but for me, it was always just learning to be true to myself and to keep following that journey and believing in myself. Some people don't find that, but it's so important that we ask ourselves those hard questions as to who we are and what's going to make us happy. Because at the end of the day, if you aren't happy, then you can't make anybody else happy. You know, it's like, it's that old expression, if you don't love yourself, then how the hell is somebody going to love you? You know, it's like, it's like, how else did you find your partner? You have a complete, powerful love for yourself, and that love attracts other people. When you're comfortable in your own skin, then people can't abuse you. When you're comfortable with who you are, then people are drawn to you because you represent something. And so, you know.
Come on now. Yes. Yes. That's what I needed, Dale.
You speak volume. and
Yeah,
I
it comes out
appreciate
unplanned. It comes because I ramble. I ramble because I'm a storyteller. I'm always telling little stories in everything I do.
Family, if you have not already, How God Created Butterflies and Other African American Stories, it's available on Audible. We have the wonderful, the fabulous Dale Guy Madison. And thank you again, Dale, for spending this time with us. Again, you can catch him in NYC March 14th.
14.
All you have to do is Google Pride Works, catch him in NYC. And Dale, we have to have you back on the show. We
Yes.
have to have you back.